Yeah, we had a good fall camp. We just finished up team practice on Sunday. So our final team practice was against Wake. We played 18 innings, a 10-inning game, and an 8-inning game. And so just got to see a ton of growth from our guys from the very beginning, starting in Summer Bridge with a lot of those freshmen and transfers starting to trickle in from the summer until individuals that we were able to train and work, and then a 45-day window for team practice, concluding with Wake. But we had a ton of at bats and a lot of games. I think our at bat leader from a position player side, plate appearance side, got 84 plate appearances. So we felt really good about how many ABs our guys were able to get over the course of the fall semester. We got to see some ups and downs and so a ton of growth. And then on the pitching side, we were deep with pitchers, so we got to scrimmage a lot and play a lot of games and really evaluate our guys. So after team practice ends, which, like I said, was Sunday against Wake. Now we're going into an individual portion so we can really work on developing the skills needed for each individual player.
Have a question? Kevin, go ahead.
Coach, the new indoor performance center, obviously a focal point of you all being able to work, all through the year. Have you done a plan of, for like individual people, how they use that, how you're going to use the results to evaluate them, then moving into the spring?
Yeah, that's already started. We started using motion capture technology for all of our players. So essentially, we have certain checkpoints throughout this fall semester. So right now, I think that we're using motion capture every 3 weeks or a month. So you're basically having somebody throw a bullpen on that technology and seeing where they're at, and then implementing drills to make small changes along the way. So all the technology that we have is basically just a deeper, more thorough understanding of what the body is doing, and then we're going to prescribe drills in order to make some changes that we think will be beneficial for that player, and then we're consistently checking in with them. So it's just another way to get players better, but that's full swing ahead. For the last 2 days, we have had staff meetings about every player. And when you're talking about 40, 45 players, maybe 42 healthy players, that's a whole lot of time talking about players. And you go with like an analytic and statistic breakdown of what happened in the fall. And then you go from, a scouting perspective with Coach Riley and player personnel perspective. That's more about where's this guy's floor? Where's his ceiling? Where do we think he can get to? What's holding him back? How do we unlock him to be great? Then you go to an assistant coach evaluation of like, what do we need to do to get this player better specifically in those areas of hitting, pitching, catching, fielding, base running, bunting. And then another big piece of this was Courtney Simkowick, who is our biomechanist that works in that lab. It was, what does the motion capture say? What do we need to do to get that person better from a movement standpoint, right? So it's a different area, but it's, on the mound, some of the things that would be said potentially is, his trunk is too early, his ground forces aren't enough, he doesn't move quickly enough, shoulder abduction is too limited, he's crossfire with his front leg, resulting in him being quad dominant on his back leg, like things like that are specific body movement stuff. And basically every player has those. And so then you're piecing this puzzle together. Then the strength coach goes, right? And so it's like, all right, well, why does he do that? Maybe he's not strong enough, or maybe he's not mobile enough, or maybe he's mentally inconsistent, leading to physical inconsistencies in these motion capture stuff. So to answer your question, yeah, full goal implementation. And it's not, I try to steer away from it being magic, magic sauce because it's exciting and it's new for us, but it's another piece of this puzzle, which is here to stay. It's like strength and conditioning 30 years ago where people would say, that's not important. This is here to stay. We just happen to be doing it, I think, earlier than a lot of people.
Brian, go ahead.
Steve, how are you?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So these fall games that you get to play, whether it's Wake Forest or Kentucky or whoever it may be, what are the true benefits of those games? Like, how do you evaluate those? And then how far into whether it's the rest of this offseason or even maybe the preseason, do you look back at those games and maybe pick something out about them? I mean, how beneficial are these for you guys as coaches when it comes to evaluating and figuring out this team?
So important. Everything's important. The practice is important. The training is important. We put a ton of emphasis on our scrimmages that we play ourselves, and you try to create it as game-like as possible, because the best way to evaluate and understand players is to put them in a game setting. So we have Friday night lights that we created where you play on Friday nights under the lights and you invite fans to try to create an environment. We play 3-game series to emulate what the season's going to be like. We play a fall World Series where the teams stay the same and we don't have scripted pitchers coming out of the bullpen because we want them to know what it's like to get their name called in a big moment. So the next phase of that is playing outside competition, which is really important because there is a difference. And when you play somebody in a different uniform, you start to see things happen that hadn't happened in scrimmage games. And so a big piece of it is mental. A big piece of it is facing other hitters and other pitchers, because a pitcher that's having success consistently against our hitters, there's basically two options. Our hitters aren't good enough or the pitcher's really good. But if you start to stack some other teams and you start to see consistency in all those areas, scrimmage, practice against outside competition, you start to think, well, you know what, this guy might just be pretty good. Or you know what, this guy just might not be that good. Or you know what, he's really good at handling in scrimmages, but not against the other team. Hey, this might be a mental limitation that we need to get over. There might be physical limitations. You're able to see them in different roles and settings. So I think extremely critical for the development of our team. The results are probably the least important piece of a fall result. Actually, I know for a fact it is 100% meaningless. And sometimes there may be benefit to losing games because we're just talking about young people that are trying to stay motivated to be their best version. And although when you get older and mature and you coach for a long time, I think it's a humbling game, and we have so much humble pie eaten that we recognize that those games don't matter. But from a player standpoint, if you struggle, you probably keep your foot on the gas. So some sort of balance of like confidence while keeping your foot on the gas. You need to have confidence to know you're going the right direction, but feeling good about yourself in October is not really a recipe for greatness, in my opinion.
Justin, go ahead.
Coach, the kind of how you doing? Good morning, by the way.
Great to see you. It's fun to see all you guys. It's been a
Yeah.
long time, it feels like, since we've got to do this stance.
To kind of follow up on that fall ball stuff, from what I understand, I might have gotten bad information, but apparently you guys did look pretty good down there in Wake Forest. I'm just wondering, what can you confirm about that? Obviously, Wake Forest is a big name in college baseball, so can you confirm that you guys won, look good? What can you say there?
Yeah. We, for the first time, so the Kentucky games that we played in the middle of the fall, we played strictly developmentally. And every time you put on a uniform, you play to win and you're competing at your highest level. But there are a lot of strategic coaching decisions that have to be made that probably put you in the best situation to be successful, right? And so against Kentucky, for example, we threw no pitcher more than 1 inning.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we were literally rolling one guy after another. You get your inning and you get out. So it's almost like a heart rate test, who can just handle stepping on the mound and doing what they do. So it's like touch-up work. And then from a position player standpoint, we tried to put the top 9 players that we thought had kind of earned that start in Kentucky, but then we substituted, you put guys in different positions. We essentially played even playing time for every position player when we played Kentucky. When we played Wake for the first 10 innings with the personnel that was healthy from a position player standpoint, we quote unquote played to win. So we put in what I believed would have been the starting lineup for that day with doing very limited scouting report work. So there could be changes based on left-handed, right-handed matchups and who you want in there. We didn't do any of that work on my end from a lineup standpoint. We just put in who we thought, were the most deserving 9 players that I thought would have a chance to give us the majority of innings in the spring. That always changes. So I'm not going to be correct in my decision making today, but that was the goal. So, and then we let starters get a little bit closer to their pitch count limitation. So we're not going to run guys, to 80 or 100 pitches at this point in the year. But a lot of our pitchers had worked up to 60 pitches. And so, for example, we had Chase Meyer go 2.1 innings, and I think he got close to that 60 pitch mark. And we had Dawson Mentesa throw multiple innings, and Wyatt Mosley, a freshman, throw multiple innings, and Chance Cole, he threw 3 innings of work. And so the guys that we thought had a chance to be starters, we kind of let them continue to pitch. They also pitched extremely well, which allowed them to continue to pitch. But I do think that we played well. There were things that we didn't do well, of course, but some big highlights of that game were the 2 starting pitchers for that game, a kid named Morningstar for Wake Forest, and then Chase Meyer started that game. It was kind of a who's who of the scouting world.
Yeah, yeah.
Both of them, potentially projected, top, maybe first rounders. And so just a lot of everybody was in attendance, GMs and scouting directors and scouts and all that. So I had that feel of an important situation. The Team USA director that selects for Team USA was there. And so kind of an exciting feel. And Gavin Kelly started that game off with just an incredible at bat. It must have been 9 or 10 pitches, fouled pitches off, took some really close borderline pitches, and started the game off with a walk. So Gavin Kelly was our leadoff hitter and started off with a walk. But it was Morningstar was just throwing disgusting, nasty stuff, and it was a good feeling. It was kind of a win for the offense. It was a little bit of that feeling because Gavin Kelly's the budding superstar for us, certainly, and it was kind of like our superstar on offense beat your superstar on pitching, and it's a fall game, and it doesn't matter. But
Sure.
it was that feeling, and then we ended up Gravline hit a double to score Kelly in the first inning off the left field wall. He's the transfer from Ohio State, and so we got on the board early. And probably the most encouraging thing from an offensive standpoint was just that Gavin Kelly did what Gavin Kelly does, and that was get on base. I think he was 1 for 3 with a single and 2 walks. And Armani Guzman stole bases. And then we hit Matthew Gravline and Sean Smith in the 4 and 5 hole for that game. And I think combined over the course of the day, they probably had 7 hits. I know Gravline had 2 doubles and Sean Smith had a homer, and they drove in, I think, all or 4 of the 5 runs in the first game. So it's nice when you have a leadoff hitter that gets on and you have a guy that steals bases, and you have a middle of the order that drives and run. It feels like you're close to a functioning, performing offense. And sometimes that doesn't happen, right? The 8-hole drives in 6 for the day and you win and you're happy. But it felt like we were kind of getting the pieces in the right general area. The pitching staff was excellent against Wake. They were just tremendous. They gave up, I think, 2 runs and maybe 6 hits through 10 innings. Last time we played Wake, we played 18 innings and we had, I think, 25 free passes and 20 walks a year ago. And then this go around through the 18 innings, I believe we had 10 walks. So we just really limited the free passes and we attacked the zone confidently. And we had a couple pitchers get off the rails throughout the outings, but it was really limited. And so overall, we controlled the game. We definitely controlled the first 10 innings, and We won 5-2 in the first game, but we had two opportunities with man on second and third with no outs and didn't capitalize later in that game. I think in the seventh and the ninth inning. And so we had opportunities to really put somebody away and didn't. So depending on how you want to look at that, good or bad. Um, but liked the pressure we were able to put on. And Wake is known for having elite arm talent. And so it was a
Right.
good test for our guys.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a real stinker. The one guy I kind of wanted to ask about was Yale. Obviously, he had the Tommy John last year and had to miss out. Where is he at now? Are you able to use him yet, or is he still kind of on the mend? Or
Yep, he's on the mend. He's doing great. About 2 weeks ago, he threw his first breaking balls in a bullpen, but his velo's there. So he's throwing what's supposed to be effortless, smooth bullpens. And he's been up to 93 in those sessions. So his arm is healthy. Now it's about developing pitches and endurance and being able to bounce back and all those kind of things. But his body's in great shape. Um, you asking about that is just about like every scout in America asking
yeah,
about how's Yale doing. And so he's in a really great position, and he'll throw to hitters here within the next month.
thank you, Coach.
Yep. Let me
Kevin,
get this light really quick. I'm getting blinded here.
sure. Kevin will go back to you when he gets back.
If that will help or not.
Okay, ready, Coach?
Yep, ready to roll.
Okay. Notice you still have Gavin Kelly and Armani Guzman listed as utility. It seems like a big decision there is where those guys play. Do they get a regular spot, and or do you shuffle them around some? And how much did bringing in the new catchers and getting the transfer Graveline that you mentioned allow you to play Kelly in the field, maybe move Armani elsewhere? All those things kind of related.
All really related and still unknown at this point. I think Gavin Kelly is a sophomore who has an incredible bat. He's very good behind the plate. He's a superstar player, but he's probably not going to catch every game. That would be unrealistic to plan for that. And so Graveline is been incredible. He was our best offensive player this fall, bar none. He had the most power on base, the most 90s. He had an incredible fall and then performed against Wake and was certainly the best player on the field between those two teams offensively on that day. So that being said, Graveline's going to catch as well. And so when he does that, you're not going to DH Kelly because Kelly's arguably the best defensive player at any position on our team. He's incredible in that perspective. So that puts him somewhere. Shortstop, second base, center field, third base. We've trained him at shortstop because we think it'll be in the infield primarily. And so when you do that, that moves somebody else when Gavin Kelly goes to the infield. And we're keeping Guzman as utility. I think in an ideal world, Guzman would probably play center field every day just because he's one of the fastest players in the nation and has a very accurate arm from the outfield and a strong arm. But we've trained him at second base just as much this year because if an injury were to happen and Gavin Kelly was catching who we want to do catch the most of the innings. Guzman has that ability to play second base at a really high level. And so, yeah, it's really strange because it feels like kind of our most experienced returning leader players play multiple positions at a high level. And I'm a little bit uncomfortable interchanging middle players. I've always tried to keep catching middle infield, center field pretty standard, but I don't know if that we're going to get to do that this year as much just because of Gavin Kelly's versatility and the fact that we need to keep his legs fresh. He's not like a grunt catcher back there. He's like a high performing, quick twitch athlete that can hit. So you gotta keep him fresh too.
And since you mentioned it, anybody out for the year right now, or all your injuries just, hey, work through them?
We're getting guys back. So Cresser had his second start of a game against Wake Forest and got a hit. So he'd been out the entire fall. He's played 2 games this whole fall. He's not throwing yet, but he's coming back. He's able to swing the bat after labrum surgery. So we got Cresser back. There's a freshman named Zahir Barjam, who we had really, really high hopes for, that had hernia surgery and hasn't got to play all fall, but he's on his way back. The only person out for the year is Jackson Ingram, who is a returning middle infielder that had knee surgery. So we have one player out for the year. We have some guys, banged up, coming back from injury, that kind of thing, but relatively good shape up to this point.
I'll go to you.
So, Steve, I guess kind of on the same theme of injuries, but hopefully, I guess a lighter note. I guess teams all around the country, no matter what level, they're dealing with arm injuries in the pitching staff, whether it's Tommy John or whatever the case may be. Is the sport starting to figure out maybe a better way to keep guys healthy all season long, or is that still just an evolving process that the target's always going to be moving and it'll always be something to try to figure out?
It is not trending in a great direction yet, and the sport hasn't figured that out. That it's pretty clear the issue. It's essentially all on the pitching side, and it's just about maximizing performance. And so it's like anything. If you, at a certain point, your ligaments and joints and muscles can't ask what your body's asking of it. And so we have really done a nice job figuring out how to maximize. And a really easy way to think about it is that we've done a nice job figuring out how to maximize velocity. So how do you throw really hard? And that's why you see everybody in the big leagues throwing 100 miles an hour, but essentially everybody having Tommy John surgery. And so we figured out, how do we maximize throwing hard, and what are the routines in order to do that, and how mobile do you have to be, and how strong do you have to be, and how quickly do you have to move, and what positions do you have to be in. And now it's just, well, how often can you actually do that without blowing out? So I think the next phase of this is it worth sacrificing some velocity and quote unquote stuff in order to stay healthy? And what is that balance? But if you don't have the stuff, you're not getting drafted. If you don't have the stuff, you're not getting into the big leagues. If you don't ever pitch, you're not usable to a team. So there's some sort of balance. And so I think in general with these young guys, normally rest is really important in how you manage that rest. But I don't think it's quite a perfect science.
Joe, we'll go to you.
Morning, Steve. Let me ask you about both of your new Westons. How cool is it to, after seeing Weston Mazie kind of grow up, what's it like to have him? I know he had the home run in the Kentucky game, and Weston Smith. How did the bridge program kind of help him, and where is he at this point?
Both those guys are doing great. Weston Mazie, it's incredible. I mean, that guy was a bat boy 10 years ago, and he was a 8-year-old for us. And so we just got to see him grow up on the field and then make a huge jump coming here. I think in general, it's probably the opposite of what a lot of folks would think. He doesn't have the benefit of the doubt because of his last name. So like everything that guy does, he has to earn in the locker room and with the team, because it's really simple to think that Weston Mazie's here because his dad was the former coach. And it's certainly not the case. He was actually our second highest player in on-base percentage this fall. He had an incredible fall. What Weston Mazie does is essentially control every controllable. So anything that you can do well from a mentality side, from a mental game side, from a preparation side, he is elite at. And so he puts himself in a situation to be successful. So where he lacks right now is physicality and ability to drive the ball consistently. And so he has to make some pretty big strides from a swing standpoint and from a physicality standpoint. But the guy's a leader. He's a coach already as a freshman. He's fit in. He's extremely hard on himself. If anything, we got to like get him to back off how intense he is. He loves the game. He works his ass off. He's been really, really good to coach. And there's been some sort of transition because you go from like, right, he was in the coach's locker room for 10 straight years with me, breaking down games and players. So he's not confused about the conversations that are being had by coaches after every practice and what we talk about and how we dissect players. And so he knows what's expected of him. So it's going to that like coach's locker room guy into a player locker room has been a transition for him, and he's killed it. So really excited about Weston Maisie. And Weston Smith has done great. Like the summer bridge piece was really big for him. Weston Smith went from being really good in his first outing to not good basically the whole fall to really good in his last outing. And that's relatively standard for a freshman that's learning and going through all these things. We actually think um, throwing all the information at him that we do with our players may have sent him backwards temporarily because you get a guy from maybe a school or a program that hadn't had any of the information that we have, and all of a sudden you pour on sleep science and strength and conditioning and bullpen routines and throwing programs in class. And oh, by the way, here's some biomechanics data. And I think we probably sent Weston Smith backwards a little bit because he was trying to do things on the mound other than just pitch. And so we think he made a really big stride, but he's mature and confident. He's an awesome kid and really excited about him. He actually started game 6 of the Fall World Series. So he got like a big start, a big nod to do that. And he was up to 95 with a power slider. So he killed it.
Justin, we'll go back to you.
Coach, I'll apologize for the length on this. I'll try to keep it quick. I'm thinking about Sam White real quick. College athletics, college basketball, college football. If a kid decides to come back for his senior year to improve his draft status, so to speak, there are salary structures in those leagues in place to award a kid if that happens, if he does come back and, kills it as a senior and improves the draft status. From what I'm kind of understanding about professional baseball, college seniors who are out of eligibility aren't exactly in that same at that same level, I guess, as the other leagues. If that's the case, is it kind of an unfortunate decision that Sam had to make this summer?
You are right in generality. You are correct in what you're saying. In Sam White's situation, not that necessarily. So, losing leverage in the draft is a reality as a senior because you don't have the option to go back to school. So pro clubs can own your rights and pay you less and essentially say, well, you can enter pro ball or you can go work at Kroger.
Right.
Right. And so the game has changed though recently because there's less rounds, there's less pro teams, and so those pro teams will save money in the top 10 rounds with seniors, but you also can increase your draft status. So let's say as a junior, you get picked in the 15th round and they want to give you a low signing bonus of $150,000. Well, as a senior, they might take you, if you kill it, they might take you in the 3rd round and pay you $200,000 and save money because you don't have a choice basically whether to sign or not. And then they take that money or that slot of that 3rd round and pay a high school or a junior superstar, $3.8 million, or they're able to put that signing bonus into somebody else essentially. And so with Sam's situation, he was a free agent. So he signed as a free agent. So he was not offered a big contract, but decided that entering professional baseball was in his best interest. And he came to school to be a professional baseball player. So he chose to come to West Virginia to develop and be a pro baseball player. And he was ready to do that. And going with the Toronto Blue Jays probably was a little bit of incentive as well. Growing up watching the Blue Jays his whole life. My kids last night when we were watching the game, the game was on, and they were like, "Is Sam White playing right now?" And I was like, "Well, not exactly, but hopefully soon." But yeah, so and I told Sam, and I'll tell him until I'm blue in the face. Like I would have, with my own son, had him go back to school because I thought Sam left money actually on the table because he was injured. Pro teams didn't really know what position Sam was. I think he could have come back and caught and played second base and been healthy the whole year. I think he would have even hit better as a senior because he would have been healthy. It's tell whatever you want to say. I think it's hard to perform with a torn labrum. I think he got four or six anchors in his arm, and so he was in pain. He was in a
Yeah.
lot of pain. Performed at a high level, so they basically didn't draft him and said, "Hey, you wanna sign with the Blue Jays for a smaller amount," and he jumped at that. Whereas I think if he came back to school, he might have been a senior that made some money because of he's such a good player. He's a great hitter analytically as well. And so I think he would have got offered more money, but there's risk associated with that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And those are the conversations you have with kids. It's just like you have to lay it out for them. You be super transparent. Um, I would, whatever I told him, I would tell to you guys, and whatever I would do with my own son, I told Sam exactly what I would want to do if it was my son. And so that's where we went. And you got to make big boy decisions and you weigh, NIL and contracts and total packages. It's part of the equation too. I don't think in Sam's case it was the only, right? Because even if I could have matched or said, you know what, I'll get you double what the Blue Jays are going to pay you, which is not reasonable in our sport.
Sure.
If we could have, I still don't think he would have chosen to come to school. So that's where it fell.
You mentioned Monteza a little bit. Obviously, Ian Korn is another one of your big D2 guys you signed. And another guy I wanted to ask about is your Canadian freshman, Goodacre. Obviously, he had a lot of high recruiting rankings and that kind of. Those two guys, have they been able to help you in the fall?
Yes, Montez has been fantastic, and garnered a bunch of excitement. And we basically started him the entire fall. So throughout all of our scrimmage games, we let him start, and he worked up to 60 pitches and really big stuff. He's got power stuff. When you on Friday nights, we would start Meyer versus Montesa, and it was probably our two biggest arms. Both, Meyer 93 to 97 and Montesa more 93 to 95 with some 96s in there, throwing strikes and competing. And then Ian Korn is a super high floor guy that I don't think we've seen his best version. He was great this fall. He's one of our best pitchers. He was 91, 94. He throws 5 pitches for strikes, works fast. He's old, veteran, can really pitch. But he threw over 100 innings, I believe, at Division II, and then he went directly to summer baseball and started pitching. And then he came to Summer Bridge and started getting his ass kicked with new strength and conditioning that he's never done before compared to his previous institution. And then he pitched all fall. So we actually shut him down for Wake and didn't pitch him. We're like, enough's enough, dude. The guy's old. He's thrown over 120 innings this year. He needs rest. So we think when he comes back from the winter break, he'll probably be his best version. It's a little bit like Derek Clark. Clark was just average for us all fall, and Korn was better than average. I don't mean to say that, but Clark was the same way. He just worked himself into the ground. He would throw complete games every time he went out for his Division II school. And so you get him some rest and a little bit of a smaller role, or it's impossible to have that big of a role here, where you throw 9 innings every outing. Basically, I think he'll be really good for us.
Uh,
Oh,
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
Ben
Can I
Good.
ask one more?
Yeah, and Goodacre, he pulled his lat 2 weeks into the fall, and it's
Okay.
one outing for us so far this fall, and was good. He's awesome kid, great worker. We just haven't got him on the mound at all.
One last question. I see on the roster right now you have Lumsden listed as an outfielder. Obviously finished last year playing first. Where do you see him? Is he an outfielder, or do you see him at first at all? Or
You got to talk to Grossman about that. Um, he started at first against Wake
okay, he's starting at
Forest,
first. Okay,
but he definitely has played a lot of outfield for us. First base has been our biggest unknown. We've played Ben Lumsden, Brian Maggie, Brock Wills, Paul Schoenfeld, Matt Robaugh, Tyrus Hall, Colton Sims at first base so far this fall. So definitely the biggest unknown is if we're going to have a consistent first baseman, if we're going to match up, or what we're going to do there. That's another piece of that Kelly thing. You take Kelly's going to catch, but when he's not catching, if he's in the infield, does that mean you slide a second baseman over to first or a third baseman over to first base? That is the position that's completely up in the air at this point.
thank you, Coach. Thank you for the
Yep.
info.
Yep.
Make these our last two questions. Go to I think it's Animal Art from College Baseball Weekly. The last question. If you're there, if you're on mute, maybe.
Good morning, Coach.
What's going on?
Sorry, I'm a little late. I'm on that Vegas time. I don't know if anybody has asked this question yet or not, Coach. But how do you like the new setup with fall ball? Whereas back in the day, uh, you're just scrimmaging mostly each other. But how do you like it? Do you think it helps acclimate the new roster, the new people, joining your program? Getting a road game, getting some innings in with them before the February start, because we know once the winter break's over, it's go time. It's practice. It's February. Then, the season flies.
Yeah, it's great. I love those fall games. There was a push by coaches to get 8 of those fall games so we could do it as much as possible. I think it didn't pass this go around. They're talking about 4 fall games, 8 fall games. I think just being able to see your players compete against the different uniforms is really important because it shows things that aren't shown in inter-squad games. And so I love it. I think it's important. We try to make it as challenging as humanly possible. We went on the road twice. You obviously could sit at home and maybe play a lesser opponent or someone that was willing to travel to your place and be a little bit more comfortable and not get back from Wake at 2 a.m. and drive on buses and eat burrito boxes. But I think in general, it's just an incredible opportunity for your guys to gain experience. So I want to play the best competition and something that simulates something that we do in the spring, which is travel and buses and road trips and having to perform when maybe you're tired or you had a late night. But yeah, if we could play the New York Yankees on the road in the fall, I would certainly choose to do that.
And Coach, real quick, last year there was a lot of speculation and talk about the Big 12 conference in general. You lost 2 great programs, Texas and Oklahoma. Respect to them. However, even me, I was shocked. I thought only 6 teams would get in the tournament. Y'all turn around, y'all get 8 teams in the tournament and get a team to the College World Series. You are one of the teams that have been in the Big 12, over a decade, Coach, versus the some of the newcomers. How do you feel about the depth of the Big 12 and how impressed were you, with your league, last year?
The depth is crazy. And when you add teams like Arizona, Arizona State, UCF, Houston, and these major markets with incredible recruiting bases, you're just going to have really high quality teams. I don't think it's a stretch. Like when you start looking at those teams and how college sports in general is trending, Big 12 teams are going to have the resources necessary to compete at a high level. So I think in the future, having 10 Big 12 teams is not a stretch. You just have these historic programs, and then you have really, really good coaching. And there's only so many teams that are operating at the level that the Big 12 is operating at with scholarships and revenue share and NIL opportunities. And kids are just starting to go there. And with the flexibility of what the transfer portal offers to some of these guys, you're going to see these larger name schools probably continue to accumulate the best talent. And so it doesn't surprise me at all. Day in and day out, just anytime that you show up on a weekend, if you don't play well, you're going to get beat. you have to play really, really great baseball to perform at a high level. And so those teams that we added potentially made us deeper, and it's a true national conference at this point. It's coast to coast.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Coach. And then you have the legendary programs like the Texas Tech and the TCUs. So, and you guys, I mean, Kansas State was right there a couple years ago on the doorstep of the College World Series. I remember 2024, you guys were about to upset an ACC team. So it's a great conference, and I've grown to have a lot of respect for it. Last question, Coach, and I'm gonna ask you a fun one before I get out of here. I don't know what's going on with this World Series. I tried to stay up for the 18 inning game. I think I made it to about the 12th, and I was done. And I'm on West Coast time, Coach. But who does Coach have winning this World Series, and in how many games, man?
I got to take the Jays in 7. My kids are rooting for Sam White, even though he's not on the club. We had a ton of fun when Alek Manoah, he was kind of one of the very first players that we feel really transformed our program when he chose West Virginia. He was very early on in my career. He led us to our first hosting of a regional since 1955. In 2019, he was a junior that was signed first round, and he went to the Jays. And so that was a kind of a monumental change in our program. And I was able to go up and watch him pitch for the Jays in Toronto. It's 6 hours from Morgantown. We recruit a ton of Canada. So I gotta root for those guys because I just think it's gritty. They play for their country. There's some resemblance stuff to West Virginia where it's like this state, everybody roots for WVU, and it feels like when you're playing the Dodgers, right? Like everybody's an underdog when you're playing the Dodgers and you're talking about their payroll. So it's just hard for me to not root for the Jays. And so fired up about those games. And I think they're probably pretty massive underdogs when it comes to the money line, but I'm pretty I think the Jays got a good shot.
Yeah, I'm a Phillies fan, so I'm with you, Coach. I couldn't believe they shut down Harper. And some of the lineup we had great pitching from Duran this year, and I was just like, you got to be kidding me. We win all these games, and then we lose. Schwarber's doing good in the lineup. I couldn't believe it, but yeah, I'm with you on that, Coach. You have a phenomenal facility out there in Morgantown, West Virginia. Thanks for the time, Coach. Best of luck to everything coming up in the spring. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Final question, Ryan. We'll go to you.
All right, so Steve, just did want to ask you about the schedule for this upcoming year a little bit. You got Maryland back on the slate this season. Kind of interested in the Hagerstown game there against Penn State, how that came to be. And then did notice Pitt's only on the schedule once. So if you can just kind of take us through that. And at least I think they're only on there once. Maybe I overlooked one. But either way, just take us through the schedule a little bit if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, let me pull that bad boy up to make sure I know what I'm talking about. We traditionally, we would love to get 4-game sets to start the year just because midweeks when we open aren't normally possible. Like they're very risky to schedule a Tuesday or Wednesday game. And obviously our kids have to go to class. So we try to set up 4-game series on the weekends. If we can go and play 4 games in 3 days or 4 games over 4-game set, we'll always do that. It's just really difficult. So even working 3 and 4 years in advance, we were unable to do that. And then the other balance is, okay, you can get someone to play your 4 games. Are they competitive enough? Are they a team that you think will allow for your team to get better and not crush your RPI? So it really is like this super balancing act that you have to play. I think in general, people assume that because I want to play them, I get to play them. Like that ain't how this works. Everybody has their own reasons and their own why of how they're going to set their schedule up. I just want to play good competition, 4-game sets, and throw as many pitchers and compete in decent weather as humanly possible. If I get more particular than that, I won't have a schedule. And so pretty interesting, but we start at Georgia Southern, who does an awesome job, big crowds, really good recruiting base. They'll have good teams. We actually recruited their best hitter and signed him, and Sean Smith is currently on our team. And so playing Georgia Southern, then we go to Liberty for 3. which is a risky play in February to go to Liberty. But if you look at like weather and that time of year, it stacks up that it should be fine. And for us, it's kind of nice to play a high quality team um, that is in the cold. Like you're playing all these warm teams that are used to their um, how they've been training and what they do. So for the first time ever, we're going to play a little bit more of a cold weather team early in the season for a 3-game set. But it's turf. It's a gorgeous facility. They do a great job maintaining it. They'll do everything in their power to get the games in. So I feel good about that. Then we travel to Georgia to play Kennesaw State, who's a really good Georgia mid-major team with a brand new stadium. This will be the first year that they open their new stadium. We have Columbia for a 3-game set at home, who I believe won the Ivy League championship last year and was the highest ranked Ivy League team from RPI perspective. And then we have, like you said, Merrill at home, and then all of a sudden we open up conference with Baylor 3-game set on the road, and then you play the Big 12 slate, which is always nasty. The Pitt situation, I would like to play Pitt for a 3-game series. It makes too much sense because they're within 60 miles of campus, and so to play good competition, a home, and then a neutral site is how I would draw it up. That's what I would like to do. Unfortunately, haven't been able to convince others that that's the right thing to do at this time. The person that did want to do that was Penn State. So second best for me, I would say, would be doing that with Penn State and Marshall. And Penn State agreed. And so the thing that sucks about that is that I think it's, I don't know, 3.5 hours away. And so on midweeks, you can't on midweeks, it's just very difficult to travel all day and then to warm up and then play a 6 p.m. game, get done at 9, and then get home, at midnight or something. And so that's really tough. And so basically, we both said, man, we'd love to play. I think we're going to get great fans. People will be into the rivalry. You have a great team. The issue is the travel sucks. And so from there, that's where I started looking for options in between us. And so we found that site, and I guess it's an $80 million stadium that they just built in downtown Hagerstown. I haven't seen it personally, but I guess it's gorgeous, and it's exactly between both of us, and it's not in either one of our home states, which is pretty cool. And so they believe that they were going to be able to market that and sell that game out. They think it's going to be a really big deal, and they were going to have a marketing name for it and talk about the rivalry and try to make this an annual thing where Mountaineer fans and Penn State fans can drive, an hour and a half or 2 hours and come to a ball game at a beautiful stadium. So definitely excited about that. And then we had the 3-game set with Marshall that's set up again. So it'll be a great schedule. Again, early on, it's tough. You travel a lot, but we took a shot with a little bit of a closer opponent in Liberty early.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
All right. Good for that. Thanks, everybody. We will reconvene in February.
All right, guys. Have a good holiday.